Welcome back to the Journey into Forever. This week is chapter 14, Love is Real Once You Become Real. And the subtitle is, The woman in your soul creates the man that you hold, and the man in your soul creates the woman that you hold. That is really a thought about how we think each other into being. And it will be very interesting to hear what Andrew has to say about it. So enjoy.
Chapter 14, Love is Real Once You Become Real. Thanks for coming along on the forever journey. We're on to chapter 14 already. I'm going to do this sort of in two sections. As I say, the title of the chapter is Love is Real Once You Become Real. I don't even know what to call it. Subtext, the philosophy, the little quote, I don't know what it is, but this is what this one is. The woman in your soul creates the man you hold. The man in your soul creates the woman that you hold. So as I said, I'm going to do this sort of in two phases. Love is real once you become real. The title. That's a tricky thing. It's almost arrogant, to perceive that one understands that they're real in the first place, because the whole process of living, I think, is the cultivation of self as self moves through different phases of life. So to determine that one is real, I guess real in that context would be honest. It's like getting into that authentic self, which again can wear many masks because we look through ourselves based, I think inherently most people look through themselves based on the best that they think that they are at any given time. But the thinking process can often be subjective to whatever the moods are, the emotions are that are influencing the projection. So it's tricky, and what happens in this chapter, there's the growing sense of love in this chapter in the human part of the story. There's, as I said last week, there's two dimensions happening here. One's spiritual, the other's physical. So these are real life people that are, well, actually fictional because they came out of my head, but they're sort of real life people. The whole idea that they're learning to step into their authentic selves and to determine within that emotion, that feeling, what is real, and then to truly love in a very unconditional way each other, which then leads to the second part of this chapter's heading. The woman in your soul creates the man that you hold. The man in your soul creates the woman that you hold. The reflection there is that the soul, I believe, is androgynous. It's both male and female. So within me, there's a familiarity of what it is to be female, not necessarily from this life, but from other lives that I'm carrying forward into this life. So there is that sensitivity and that empathy and that intuitive right hemispheric function that gives me a sense of what it is to truly love my mate through who and what I feel myself to be within myself in regards to sort of what is femininity, what is that sensitivity, what is that incredible ability that a woman has to reproduce. This is something that's so, mind-blowing to a guy. You can actually do that. We can't, or maybe we can, but not in this physical form, which then takes you out of that sort of limited perspective of I'm only here once, this is it, it's over, it's gone and dust. Maybe I'm migrating through many different lifetimes and experiencing all that there is to experience as my soul evolves through the different manifestations and the different egos that it chooses to bring forth in its learning and progression. And vice versa, the woman in your soul, the man in your soul creates the woman you hold. That's the same reflection, but it's coming from the perspective of a woman looking at the chi and the power and the idealization of what a man is and the bravado and all the other nonsense that goes with being male. It's sort of a representation of equality in a real way. It's like there's a male in me, there's a female in me. There's a male in the females that are hearing this, and there's a female in the female that are hearing this. It's this need to break everything down that I think often, creates the roles that we're sometimes mandated by our conditioning to live through. You have to be, my mate female has to be subservient to me because I'm the guy, which is antiquated and ridiculous. And we all know that, but yet often we live those those emotions out. The other place I want to go with this, which I think is really important, and it's the emphasis of, love is real. I believe that, as you guys know, anyone that's listened to all these videos so far, I understand that we're physical. I get it. I'm here. I can do this. But we're energy, and our energy systems exceed the physical vehicle that we live in, and we're constantly projecting energy out of ourselves to each other. And then when we're intimate with someone, emotionally, physically, psychologically intimate with someone, we're constantly thinking to them, even if we don't know that we're thinking to them. If Elise is in the city on some business thing or whatever she's doing, I'll think of her many times a day. If she's attuned to me, meaning her brain isn't engaged in something that she's doing in a meeting or whatever, she might feel me, or I might jump into her thoughts for a second or two, and she may even return that thought and wonder what I'm doing. And it doesn't matter. It's just the point I'm trying to make is that we think to each other. So I'm going to stay personal. If with my mate, Elise, if we're in discord with each other and we're not communicating and we're not getting through that discord, then I might have some past stuff that's causing me to feel resentment or angry or dismissive of her viewpoints or her values. And I'm thinking these things to her. I'm thinking these feelings, these emotions. I'm projecting them out, even though I'm not saying anything. It's just I'm projecting because I'm thinking. And I'm influencing her energy. So the man in my soul, the energy field that I am, is now thinking something that I may not actually want to project at her, but because I'm angry or I'm frustrated or I'm not seeing her truest attributes and honoring them with my thoughts and with my love, then I'm cycling a negative towards her, which she'll cycle back. And then an interesting thing, and again, most people that don't see energy probably don't understand this, but when you sleep with somebody, when you're lying side by side, you're going into the most defenseless time that you can be in, because you've gone into a subconscious state. And what happens when that happens is that your energy field, so all your little defense patterns, he said, she said, he's acting this way, she's acting that way, all these things that aren't necessarily coming through the authentic feeling and truism that love can be, those little, I call them elementals, they're little black specks that float around in the energy field. When you go to sleep, you're exchanging each other's energy, and you, because you're not sleeping, or because you are asleep, you're not conscious, therefore there's no defense. There's no defense. So in a sense, you go into a very similar frequency of energy where you're exchanging, and if there's gibberish, well, you're exchanging each other's gibberish, which can then affect you neurologically, meaning neurologic, when I say that, I'm referring to behavioral patterns, become kind of stuck. It's interesting when you think about intimacy too, through this perspective or any perspective you want to, but if you look at a couple that's been together for an awfully long time, it seems to start to manifest in the 15, 20, 30, 35, 40, 50 years together. And as the aging process takes us to where it takes us, we'll often look very similar. Our characteristics will start to look the same. That's, again, it's a representation of how powerful the energy field is, and the energy field and the thought. When you see an old couple that's truly joyous and happy, and they're smiling or they're toddling down the street hand in hand. I have neighbors that are in their 90s. They're kind of cool. They obviously have loved each other for a long, long time because A, they look alike, and B, they smile, they laugh, there's joy in their hearts, and you can feel it off them. They're the coolest neighbors. On the other hand, if you look at couples that have been together for a long time and merely tolerated each other, well, then there's a reflection of that as well. There's more of a bent over, more of a constriction, and they're both doing it. And it's just interesting for me to watch how the energy actually molds the physical structure. You can think about it from another perspective and just say even posture. If your mate stands up tall and strong and is confident, well then you're probably going to do the same thing. So it's this reflection that it's like when you're truly with a mate, and certainly this chapter is all about that. It's about two people learning to fall in love. And they're learning to let go of preconceived notions. They both had other relationships that were, in one case, painful. And there's some, reflection and recapitulation on what that was for her name's Charlotte, and how she needs to let that go in order to move into something that is more real, because what's happening is she's becoming more real. Through pain, she's recognizing what she will not tolerate in a relationship, and some of what she won't tolerate even comes through thought. How does he think me to be? Because if I'm in a relationship, that person, whether I want them to or not, is going to affect how I feel about myself. Therefore, they're thinking me into being. And it's back and forth. You're doing it to each other all the time. So yeah, lots to explore in chapter 14. It's kind of funny because like I say, the book is kind of in two phases at this point. We're really dancing between dead people and alive people, and the dead people are sort of influencing or certainly learning and evolving and assimilating into deeper understandings of themselves as they observe what's going on within something that's very familiar to them on the physical plane that they left behind. Chapter 13 last week, we talked about you never know when or where or when. Love is not something that can be forced. Love just is. We're moving to chapter 14, where we go into this love is real once you become real. It's just sort of an expansion of that whole idea of love as a progressionary aspect of what it is to be both human and spirit. Obviously, I'm quite spiritual in my orientation. I write books about reincarnation, the evolution of the soul. I do believe we're spirits, and I do believe that our spirits are here to evolve. And I think that the evolution that we're in, and I've probably said this before, is an evolution away from fear, away from resistance, and into love. And I know that these words are simply that. They're words: fear, love, negative, positive, Satan, God, whatever you want, right? But we all know what is good, what feels right, and we all know what doesn't feel right. And I think that the journey that we're on, individually and collectively, is moving out of sort of the animalistic, controlling, need to control, dominate, scarcity mentality, all this kind of stuff, into a higher frequency, which is the result of our souls migrating through thousands of lifetimes, getting to a point where we recognize that it's time to evolve again. We need to, in a sense, step out of the cave and look at a new way of being. And there's a lot of talk like this going on out there. And I'm sure if you're listening to me, you're hearing it in yourself and in other places as well. So, love is real once you become real. It's a feeling that completely envelops the fragmentations and resistances that are often found within the egocentristic patterns of our behaviors. So thanks for coming along, and I hope you enjoy your day. Before I go, I just got to build to chapter 15. To me, this is the big chapter. Well, they're all big chapters. When God entered the cave. Looking forward to doing that next week. Have a great week. Bye-bye.